In this section, we are going to focus about some real-life scenarios. And the objective here is to show you what exactly you are doing in real life. Now, when we get hired to penetrate a network, for instance, what we usually focus on, besides going through the primary phases from reconnaissance and scanning, what we try to get access to one of the machines inside the network. So I will try to compromise just one machine. So if the network includes like 400 or 500 machines on different subnet, or even network has like 200 machines, I will just keep looking for one weak machine. And if I was able to access or to compromise this weak machine, I'm going to use a technique called pass the hash to get access to the secured one. So any machine that is unsecure inside any network will be a threat for the remaining machine. So inside your network, if you have just one machine that is unpatched, doesn't have an antivirus, firewall is disabled for any reason, the hacker can compromise it, and from this machine he's going to use this pass the hash technique to get access to the remaining secured one. And this is what we're going to try now. So we're going to access one machine, and from that I'm going to try to access the other machine. I'm going to try to compromise the other machine. So I'm going to compromise one weak machine, and then I'm going to use the pass the hash to compromise the other machine. And this should be your objective. So you go somewhere, you run some tools, you try to check for any weak machine and try to compromise it. If you're able to do that, that's it. Whatever connected to the same network will be accessible for you. So in this case, I have two different machines. I have a domain that consists on a server and one client. And I'm going to try to hack one of those two. And using pass the hash, I'm going to hack the other one once I compromise the first one. So we're going to wait until the domain start, the server. And we're going to establish the attack using the gtrack Linux. Concept actually apply. You can do that with Kali Linux backtrack, doesn't matter. So I'm going to log into my domain. So control and insert. As you can see, the domain name is company XYZ. So let me log in, and from this machine as well. And I'm logging to the domain. And by the way, you can log in using any account. Just I didn't create an account on the domain controller, but you can log in using any account. But as you can see, I have two different machines, and we're going to start by trying to compromise one of those two machines. Now the point here is that I can do that manually, but it may take time. So I can try to reconnaissance and scan and check for vulnerability and check for exploit, or I can start by using a tools. And you should always start with simple things. Sometimes you don't need to even do effort. Everything will be easy for you. If it's the simple tool will not work, then you can enhance your attack and start using the techniques that we explain in vulnerability and exploit. So one of the techniques that we already exploit with the Armitage and fast track. And this automates the process. It will scan the system, check for vulnerability, check for exploit, and compromise the system. So I should start with that. They have a good library. If it will not work, then I'm going to check how can I do that manually. So I'm going to go to fast track, and then we are going to in services, fast track, and the interactive one. Before opening the interactive, let me check the IP of the machine. So here I have 192.168.95.143, while here I have it's 192.168.95.150. Excellent. So now let's go to our gtrack, and we're going to use the Autopan that do that automated. and we're going to start by Autopan automation. Definitely you should update that, and I explained that earlier in the vulnerability and exploit section, but for the sake of time, let's just run the attack. So number 2, which is the Autopan. Now you can ask me, which IP would you like to scan? In real life, you have to put a range of network. It's better to put something like the example 4, 192.168.1/24. I mean all the machine inside this network, because your objective after all is to get one weak machine. But the problem is that it will take time. So I'm going to just choose one machine, and we're going to try to compromise it just to speed up the process a little bit. So I'm going to write here the IP of one of the machine, 192.168.1.143. Oh, sorry, it was actually 95. I wrote the wrong password. So fast track, interactive, and number 2, and 192.168.95.143, and enter. Second question will be, okay, if I'm able to compromise the system, should I choose a bind shell or reverse shell? And we had this discussion before, especially in vulnerability and exploit, and you remember that reverse shell will allow the victim to connect to you, so it will bypass the firewall. So reverse shell is much more better and much more effective. And that's it. He's going to do everything on behalf of you. As you can see, those are the commands that will be executed. He's going to start by doing nmap for scanning the system, and those are the port open and service open. Those actually are very much. And according to what he found, he's going to start checking from the libraries that have all the exploits that maybe it can exploit the system. So he found around 303. It will take time, but we're going to wait. Until now he reached 22 and 0 sessions. That means he was not able to access any of them, because he will not just check the vulnerability and exploit, but he will try to compromise the system using this exploit. And if he was successful, he will give you the interpreter session. So we just need to wait. And by the way, you can choose any of those 2 IP. Maybe I choose the server, because server most of the time has more services, so it's more vulnerable, while client could have less services. But you can try with the client, with the server, with the whole network, just to check for one of the machines that has an old operating system. Maybe one of the machine inside my network has a Windows XP. This is definitely will be compromised. Then from there you can hack to Windows 8 and 7 and other machines. So let's wait. The 303, those are not all the exploits that he got more, except those are the ones that he can test on this specific operating system and this specific port and services. If the system was a Windows Server 2008, you're going to find that he show different number and different type of exploit. So this is more related to what he found on the previous step. So still 0 session. You just need to be patient. It's something that you need to learn during this kind of activity. So when you go to a customer for a penetration testing, you have to be patient. He may find more than one, and he may give you more than one session. And you can notice that he's showing you what exactly he's testing. And this is good for reporting, because after all, you're going to need to submit a report for your customer. So you need to tell him he's infected with what kind of vulnerability he have, what kind of exploit did you use. So it's good that he's showing that. So still, I hope he'll find something. Okay, what if he didn't find any session? Then first you try one more time. Then you're gonna try the manual way, and manually just get back to the section for vulnerability and exploit, and you're going to need to do that manually. I think, no, not yet. Oh, excellent. So one session has been implemented. So he found one vulnerability, he used an exploit, and he was able to get one meter-preter session. You can wait for more, but actually for me, one is fine. I mean, I just need to prove the concept. But for you, you have to wait until he finished, so you can find how many sessions he was able to implement. And according to a two session now, according to that, you can write that inside your report. So I'm going to Control C to stop the process. So I can Control C. So, but in real life, you have to finish until you see how many sessions he was able, because this will point to the vulnerabilities that the system had. But for me, I was able to get the session I wanted. Actually, 4 sessions open on the specific machine. So on one machine, he find full vulnerability, and he was able to get the 4 meter-preter session. You can type session -i to show you the session, and you can type sessions -i 1 or 2 or 3 to get to the meter-preter session, and now you have full access to the system. And if you remember, you can type help, and it will show you all the commands that you can execute, and they are categorized. And after finishing this attack, we're going to take some of those, because we need to get some of those to maintain your access, so no one can like kick you from the victim machine. So I'm going to put that in the background. I will not type exit, because exit will close the meter-preter in the background. And then what I need to do right now, I need to, from this machine, from this session, I need to establish a connection with the other machine. So, I'm sorry, let's go back to my session -i1, and I'm just going to use one command for the meter-preter session. It's called #dump. And #dump will dump all the account on this victim machine, the account and their password, but the password is hash, is encrypted. But this will be used, let me even right click and type copy. This will be used to establish the pass the hash attack on the other machine. So I'm going to go back to the background, go into the MSF prompt, and then I'm going to search for the pass the hash exploit. And the pass the hash exploit name is psexec. So let me search the psexec, the pass the hash exploit. Okay, he found two. Actually, he only found one. This is one. So we're gonna type use, and I'm gonna choose this location. Take it, copy, and paste. And now we're gonna go inside the exploit that you want to use. Any exploit, if you remember from the section that we discussed, the exploit and vulnerability, has some input. Like you need to write down what is the IP of the target, what port, so to be able to see that in command line, we did that by graphically, I remember. If you need to do that in command line, you type show options, and show option will show you what exactly is needed. So you're gonna see the things that is needed, and if it's required or optional. Like here we need the R host, which is the target host, so you need to type it here. You need the username and password, and you need to change the domain if any change. So let's do that. So to change those values, you type set R host, and don't forget that Linux is case sensitive. So if it's written in capital, you have to write it in capital. If it's small, you have to write it in small. And we're going to put the IP of the second machine, 192.168.9150. And you can verify by typing show options again to make sure that the value has been added. Then in the work group, in the domain, we need to write the domain name, because if it was a work group, we should keep it work group. But since those machines are under a domain, we're going to type the name of domain, and the name of domain was company XYZ. So set SMB domain, domain, and we're gonna type the company XYZ. Enter. Then the username. The username, we're gonna type set SMB SMB user, and I'm gonna write the administrator. And the password should be the hash password for the administrator password. So we need to go up and copy this hash. And I should start copying from 9. I should not take this 500. This 500 is the user ID, the identifier of the user. And it's very useful because usually the administrator has a specific identifier which is 500. So even if the name is different, but you see the identifier is 500, you know that this is an admin account. So I'm going to take this hash and we're going to write copy, and we're going to put it here. So according to that, paste, here we go. Show option one more time. Everything has been set and all the values are there. So you just need to launch that. So what I'm doing right now, I'm using the credentials that I dumped from the first machine to try to convince the second machine to let me hack him. And let's see if this is going to work or not. So I should type exploit to try that, and let's see how it goes. And here you go. Excellent. So Meterpreter session opening on the victim machine. So now I did compromise the second machine using the pass the hash from the first machine. So now if I type background, how many session I should found? Show session. I have 5 sessions. Okay, 4 of them with the first machine and the 5th with the second machine. And I can keep resuming that to hack to all the other machines on the system. So this is how to utilize the pass the hash. Very, very good technique to compromise one weak machine, because you will never find a network that has all the machine with the same level of security. Definitely you can find few that is exploitable. So this is the first part of the real life scenario. So I hope this was informative for you, and on the next video we're going to see, okay, I took access to both machine or 3 or 4 or all the machine. What should be the next step? I need to maintain access. I need to get familiar with the Meterpreter session. So on the next video we're going to see how to utilize that.